UK versus United States nurses. Who works harder? Hi, I'm Scott, the home health hustle nurse, and I am here with.
I'm Deb. I'm the old school RN. That's school with a K, like 80s music. So I've been a nurse a lot longer than Paul Scott. So I too have had my career going through the acute sector. You name it, I've done it.
And today we're going to talk about basically comparison between the United States and the United Kingdom and nursing and how they both countries do such a great job with managing care.
Well, we try. The National Health Service, which is this here, is known to everybody. Free at the point of delivery, paid for by our taxes, and it doesn't matter what happens to you, whether it's going to cost, on paper £2 million or £20. The care is there, the treatment is there, and the NHS is there for you.
And in the United States, everything is a giant dumpster fire. So don't come here. Just kidding. Um, So it's interesting because we don't have would you call that socialized medicine what you have in the United Kingdom because it's
Um, Yeah, I mean, the NHS started a long, long time ago, like 1948, and it was a concept after the World War because people were in such poor health. So the government of the day literally said, let's have this thing called national insurance, let's have taxation, and we'll create a healthcare system that's free. So everything was free. Eye care, hearing aids, checkups, everything was free. Maternity care, baby formula, everything was free. As time's gone on, certain things are paid for or don't get included in that. But coming back to today, it's still free at the point of return. So you go to the A&E, we call it accident and emergency, not anything and everything, but it's otherwise called the ER in America, Canada, etc. But literally you come in and it doesn't matter if you have Ebola virus, amoebic dysentery, a car accident, you will be treated.
so in the United States we have a law called EMTALA EMTALA where it basically states you regardless of your ability to pay if you go to the emergency department they are required by law to stabilize you. Beyond that, whether or not you'll be admitted, it gets pretty dicey, but basic medical necessity, regardless of your ability to pay, we have that. Now, you get into things over in the United States, we have for profit hospitals, which I think are a terrible idea, and non for profit, which we would like to think would be the better of the two. I've worked at a for profit hospital, and it's not for profit for the nurses, it's stockholders, which is so hard to wrap your head around as a nurse how someone could profit off of the sick, the poor, the dying. Well, obviously not the poor because they don't have any money, right? But like your average Joe, um,
Yes.
and the shortcuts that they take, the understaffing, which is another issue, we'll go there. It's just at the point to the point where it's not safe. Like you don't feel safe for your license. Um, so I do not. Well, I'll table that for the time being. So we have for profit, and then we have non for profit hospitals. You get stabilized, but the last time I checked, the number one cause of bankruptcy for individuals in the United States was healthcare related costs.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is coming to Britain. And it scares me to death. And it's not a good idea. I mean, it certainly isn't. We're very fortunate that nobody is bankrupted by medical bills here. There is the choice to go to a private hospital and have cardiology or I don't know, skin disorders, whatever you want to pay for, or you have insurance via your company or self-pay. That's fine. However, in our private sector, we don't have a private A&E. We don't have a private ER. And when I've been abroad with patients with our company, they do have a private A&E. Now, because we don't have that kind of private system, there will be some hospitals, private hospitals, that will have some kind of emergency care, i.e., an anaesthetist who sleeps overnight in the hospital. Many of them don't have that. So if you have an MI or a heart attack, you're literally put in an ambulance, and 999 is our number, not 911, 999, over to an NHS hospital and dealt with there.
So that sounds similar to the different trauma levels of the hospitals we have here in the United States. Trauma level one being the best, and there are certain requirements that you have to have all of those staffed. So if any kind of emergency comes in, whether you're a stroke center, a heart center, so forth, that can be dealt with. And I guess that would be a difference that we have between the two, is that on the state side of things, it sounds like that's the equivalent to the level of trauma.
Um, Sort of. Actually, it's similar, but not quite the same. So in Britain, we have private hospitals that are literally cherry pick the patients they have. So a fit young 40-year-old lady who's had 3 children and has got varicose veins, they're not treatable on the National Health Service anymore. They used to be, unless you've got complications, venous ulcers, something like that. You have to pay
Okay.
for that. So you go into hospital, you'll have your veins done, you might be a day case, something might happen, I don't know, you don't feel well enough or you need pain relief. You'll stay overnight and go home the next day. If, say, you go in for an operation and you have an MI or a stroke or something, emergency, you're then taken to a National Health Hospital. So we don't, all private hospitals do not have that kind of emergency backup. They're starting to, the bigger hospitals, because it's a preempt to the changes politically. However, as a rule, private hospitals in the UK are literally like care homes with a doctor. Some of them don't even have a doctor overnight.
So we would have, I don't know if that's a misnomer or not, but we call them pack and ship hospitals, where you have the very rural access is the better term for it. Rural access hospital where they don't have those resources because they're in the mountains, and they're there to stop the bleed, triage, and then get them airlifted to one of those trauma ones, hopefully. So it sounds like it's something similar, but I'm wondering, so the hospitals that can cherry pick their patients, are they because they can't handle the heavier acuity?
Yes, in part, yeah, because they don't have the emergency services there to
Okay.
pick that up. Now, if they're a private hospital that deal with more serious issues, for example, coronary artery bypass
Hmm.
surgery, yeah, then they will have some kind of backup. So they might be taken on an NHS hospital, but as a private patient. So that one patient will be amongst general National Health Service patients, and nobody would know any difference. No fancy rooms and own
Sure.
bathrooms. Some do, or they might have to share with other people when they're up and about and, extubated, obviously.
Yeah.
But up at the procedure itself, yeah, it's just about money.
So, of course it is.
Except for the nurses. We
Except
don't
for
get
the
any
nurses.
more.
Nope, no, we don't. Well, outside of money, let's talk a little bit about staffing ratios, because I know that's pretty much a hot button topic for nurses globally. Globally. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about in the United Kingdom what that's like as far as the average nurse?
Well, everybody's an average nurse when it comes to pay. Business principles apply to hospitals, but not about nurses' pay. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yes, I wonder why. So yeah, if you apply for an NHS role, it's based, even if you've got experience and a master's degree and etc., you will enter the NHS as a band 5. So these things are called bandings. Let me go back a little bit. When I started quite a while ago in the 80s, we didn't have banding. It was called Whitley scale. It was a scale of pay, and regardless of your qualifications, your knowledge, your background, you could go from gynecology to operating theatres to A&E. Everyone was paid the same. Then in 1988, grading came in, A, B, C, D, E, etc. And you were given a grade according to, it was so random, it was a mess when it started, a flat rate. So as an RN, you came in at an E grade, it was called. So you started on a set salary. Today, it's called banding, and it has been banding for about 15, 20 years maybe. And you will come in at a band 5. And the salary for that at the moment is about £28,000 to about £37,000. I can't work that out in dollars.
That's okay.
Can't remember how many dollars, but we can look at that another time. But literally, you will come in at that. Now, at one time, if you were experienced and knowledgeable, you would come in at a higher level.
Sure.
But if you leave the NHS and come back, you start at a 5 again.
Fun. Okay.
Isn't that lovely? So you can be a highly experienced nurse with an A&E qualification, a master's degree, a BSc honours, and Lord knows what else, ICU course, etc., etc. I will be paid the same as a newly qualified nurse who's never worked in A&E or acute care.
So that does not sound very incentivizing for nurses with loads of experience who might have left for, maybe they had children, maybe they had something else going on, who have all of that great knowledge and experience. That doesn't really incentivize them to return to work as a nurse.
No, unless they've been in post for 2 years or more, they get maternity pay. So
Okay.
they can be off and get maternity pay. But if you've been in the NHS for less than that time, you don't get that. Or if you work as what we call agency nursing, which you call travel nursing.
Okay.
Bank nursing we have as well. Bank nursing is when you are like a travel nurse, but only to that hospital.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we call
So you've
that.
got the best of both worlds.
Do you have float pool? Do you have float pool over there or no?
Float pool. That sounds like banking.
Okay. Yeah.
So you work in one hospital, but you could be on a ward, or you can pick,
Sure.
or you get your specialty.
Yeah, okay, so that's the equivalent to a float pool nurse, unless it's a highly specialized unit like the operating room or something where you can only have a specific nurse there. Um, okay, just
Correct.
wanted to
Yes.
clarify
So
that.
A&E is one of them.
Sure.
Back in the day, I did a course, but we'll come to that another time. And it
Okay.
was 6 months long. You learned a lot of things, but you don't have that course in A&E anymore. It's structured differently. But yeah,
So why all the changes? Why go from what'd you call the Wernicke scale? What'd you call it?
Whitley scale.
Whitley scale. Oh, okay.
Whitley was the name of a minister.
Okay.
It was political. How do I
Of
put
course.
this
Of course.
nicely? The very start of privatisation.
Okay.
It was creeping in, because when the NHS was formed in 1948, there was a lot of opposition from doctors, funnily enough, and certain parties who didn't want that to happen.
Hmm.
They didn't want social housing, so people lived well. People used to pay privately for doctors, and they were poor and they couldn't afford it.
Sure.
It was up to the church to pick up the slack there. There's a program called Call the Midwife. You have it in America.
We don't have midwives in America, really. We don't
Oh,
use them.
right. Okay.
There's
Well, if you
there's
ever
a
see,
whole documentary about how we have like a terrible infant mortality rate, and we're allegedly so great with healthcare. But the business of being born, if you've never heard of it, but
well, even though we have midwives, we still have issues,
mm,
and that's a political football too. But yeah, this Whitley scale changed because the status of hospitals was changing. So to me, looking at it now, at the time, I thought, oh, great, they're going to, it was sold to us. They will reward experience, they will reward
mhm,
qualifications. No, that was just the front. It was a way of dividing and ruling. And because the government didn't know exactly what we did, we had to write our own job descriptions.
You mean politicians lie over there too? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a prerequisite for being one.
Ah,
It's
gotcha.
actually on the CV. It's a lifelong learning process. Yeah, it
Roger
just
that. Okay.
happens. Yeah.
So one of the concerns, though, to I guess the other side of the coin is like you have people at the school of thought where um, they are all for privatization because the of what they've seen or what they've heard or sometimes experienced with socialized medicine where you might need emergency treatment or surgery or something and you get waitlisted for a year and a half because everything's backed up. How would you address that, or have you experienced that? Is that kind of why there's a big push for privatization over in the UK right now?
I would say the push for privatization, I believe, just my opinion based on my experience, it's about money. Because there are reports. I've looked at healthcare politics now since the day I started my training, so 4 decades. And the political landscape is such that in the UK, all our wonderful systems that were put in place to give people a good quality of life, so they had money to spend, to go on holidays, to purchase things for their home, and to have a good family life, have gone.
Yeah.
So social housing has been sold off and bought by people who've then sold it in their council house in London. They've bought the house, sold it in London, gone up north, and had enough money to live very well because they've made £2 million, say, just from selling their house, okay, or whatever money they've made. In some managerial journals and political journals, the phrase gold rush is coming. You can almost see these greedy entrepreneurs and technocrat types who see homes not as a house, a home for families, but as a property to make money from. Well, they're doing the same with the NHS. It's called the NHS Gold Rush, and lots of companies from various countries are behind this takeover. Over in Britain, the National Health Service, which I mentioned earlier, was free at the point of delivery. There's a concept called the gold rush, and it means that companies abroad, Rishi Sunak, for example, the ex-unelected MP, spent time during COVID in America talking to healthcare and insurance people about the NHS. Okay, we were all locked down, but private jets were okay. So that was part of it. There are other countries who also have an interest in our NHS because our prime ministers love to sell off assets of the UK. So housing was one. So council housing or social housing was something that gave people a roof over their heads. That was then offered for sale to the person living in it. They bought it cheaply and then after a couple of years sold it for a lot of money and went to live elsewhere. Same concept with the NHS. We've got an issue at the moment with our data because of all this digital ID control kind of thing. A company called Palantir have the contract for all our NHS data, and there are a lot of concerns around this. It also ties in with the digital ID because the National Health Service will have all that information and it will be tied and linked to your passport and everything else.
Okay.
Okay, so it's all being seen as a tad intrusive, if I can
Sure.
put it that way.
Privacy concerns and valid.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. But not just that, it's the control. I mean, who's seeing your health record?
Sure.
If you've got private things on there, things that have happened, we know what we see in patients' health records. You don't want anybody else seeing that and the implications. And at the moment, we don't have codes and things applied to healthcare problems for insurance purposes, for billing. Now, we started getting what were called clinical coders into the National Health Service probably 20, maybe more years ago. And they're paid as much as a registered nurse. They start on a band 5 for working 8 in the morning till 4 p.m. Now, their lunch breaks, I'm not sure about. They may be paid, they may not, but we have lunch breaks that are unpaid. But if you're a manager and you're earning, good money at band 8, I'll explain all this in time, your lunch is paid for. You can get a coffee when you want. You can have a coffee at the desk. You can go to the toilet when you want. We can't, nurses' bladder syndrome. But anyway, politically, this all ties in. The culture, the unsafe care, the nurse staffing ratios, the selling off of hospitals. It's all about noses in the trough.
So I feel like that comes back to just this idea of like one of the biggest problems in the United States is that we've turned healthcare into such a business. You had mentioned coders a moment ago. We've turned it into such a business, a profitable one, unfortunately, at the expense of the patient, that now we have all of the accessory, I guess, problems that come with that. So it's never. I feel like they weaponize nurses' compassion against us and use it as leverage against us because we want to do the right thing. We have a spine. We want to take care of the patient. And you have all these businessmen who, I'm not going to get heated.
So we have a collective term for this. It's called psychopath. And corporate psychopathy, this is my opinion, and I am a trained psychotherapist, by the way. My take is that corporacy, especially when it's been applied to schools and to people, is a form of psychopathy. And that is why there is no empathy, no sympathy, no care about what is going on with nurses. I could write reams, I could talk for hours about this horrible corporate psychopathy where nurses and doctors working on the front line are being treated like filth. And they are working under the most difficult circumstances with high patient ratios, with high acuity patients. Oh, let's give this RN 6 patients on her own in an A&E cubicle of 12. So there'll be 2 RNs, 6 apiece, sometimes 8 if they're waiting to go to the ward and they're stuck in the corridor. So how does that work? And the acuity will be high. How do you deliver that care? And someone's dying of cancer in the corridor because you're attending to the sepsis patient who's on the clock because you've got to get those IV antibiotics done. Whereas the old dementia pal in cubicle 7 is climbing over the cot sides and is about to fall on the floor.
I mean, of course, that will be your fault too when that happens.
Yeah. But this is the reality. And there's been many a shift. I've stopped doing this now, but many a shift where I've not had a break, not been to the toilet, not had a drink. Keep your patients hydrated. What about the nurses? Plenty of posters about that.
Don't matter.
If they could get us to work with a Foley catheter in and a bag and an IV drip strapped to our backs, they would.
Oh, yes.
That's my take on it. But I think this is ignored by these people at the top. As far as I'm aware, they never come down to our floor level. I've seen it once at a hospital near Wales where we were so desperate. I had a lady who was delivering a 20-week fetus on the floor of a makeshift. It was an old disused theatre room off the A&E, and I had to put a sheet on the floor quickly and deliver her there. Yeah, that was how bad it was. And we had 25 ambulances full of patients outside waiting to come in. And it was so desperate that the chief executive was called. He came down, he walked around, he said, well, it doesn't seem that bad now, it's quiet.
Oh, he
That
used the
was it.
Q word too, on top of all of that.
Oh, yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah. So, but it's only the Q word is only for managers. We
It's
don't
for
know what Q
nobody.
is. Yeah. It's crazy. And my frustration, sorry, it comes out because I have worked in various levels
Mm.
within the NHS in lots and lots of roles, including management. And you cannot get through to these people. They have a corporate reason for everything. And to me, they're so entrenched in that business mode, even the good ones, the ones who have climbed the ranks, they're so set on this salary and this new gold rush because it means these managers are going to be paid a lot of money once the hospitals become private. Quick example: the water in our country used to be national. It wasn't privatized. So we had a water supply, we had rivers that were dredged, we had, everything was cared for. Then our water was sold off to companies abroad. It was left sewerage going into the sea, rivers that had dead fish in them. I mean, all kinds of things. And yet these companies were making lots of profit. The bills were going up, that people had to pay for. And what happened was the CEO of the water companies was on, say, £46,000 in 1995. Suddenly, when it went private, their salaries jumped in the millions.
Mm.
And that's what these CEOs and senior managers are about. They want the gold rush because their salary at the moment, like the chief of the NHS in England, for example, England and Wales, let's not go to Scotland and Ireland. It's all a different system, but England and Wales, mainly England. This guy heads the whole of the NHS. Not my favourite person, I have to say. However, he's earning on paper, nothing else with perks and whatever included, around £300,000 a year at the
Sure.
moment. That is going to woof. That's going to just go off the scale for all these people.
So
And
they're allegedly smart. These people are allegedly smart, and they're creating an environment where it's going to be so bad that even when they with all their money, once they reach this point, that's not going to help them because they've created this pit that climbing out of it's going to be too late. So I don't think until they're a patient in a bed they can really see because they obviously don't have the empathy for nurses or the patients until they are the patient. I don't think they're going to understand. I think it's one of those things that they have to experience, which is sad because when it comes to that point, there's not going to be a whole lot of help around.
I agree with you. However, they have this kind of false thinking, many of them, because they think their private healthcare package will pick up the slack. So I've had it said to me from a female senior manager, well, if I want a scan, I can organise one in 3 days with my private healthcare. I said, oh, so what if it's an emergency and your appendix is about to rupture? Are you going to then ask if you can have your scan in 3 days? What then?
What was the answer?
This?
Yep.
They don't know what to say because they think life is just smooth. We just do this and we just do that. Everybody's like, oh, I'll plan this, I'll plan that. And we know how you can't plan anything. We know that we as nurses see a wife kissing her husband goodbye, taking the children to school, and then that knock on the door from the police saying, your husband's in hospital, ma'am, can you come and with us and we'll take you down to A&E. And then you get there and it's like, how do I tell this woman a 43-year-old husband has just had a cardiac arrest and died?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the concept these managers don't get.
Are they medical? Are the managers medical over there?
No, They're all corporate clones. Some maybe, or some have got a background.
Sure,
Most of them have come from, say, football clubs or car manufacturing.
sure.
Can't write this, can you? Or some other corporate entity, biscuit factories or something. Biscuit, meaning biscuit with tea. It's an English
You,
thing.
you mean cookies, right? You're talking about cookies?
Cookies, that's
Yeah.
it. Yes. So they will not have the empathy.
Well, let's
You
go
will
back
get,
to the important part here. A
okay.
biscuit has it's like a buttery, doughy thing that you put jam on in the morning and eat. Whereas a cookie that has chocolate chips in it, or oatmeal and raisin, or ginger snaps are my favorite. One of my favorites.
Ginger snaps are a biscuit.
They're cookie.
No, they're a biscuit. A
Okay,
cookie in England is chocolate chip, gooey, and bendy.
a cookie.
A cookie, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like cookie dough in ice cream. It's got movement.
All
A
right. Sorry,
biscuit,
I
a
didn't mean.
biscuit is a ginger snap, not a scone. A scone is what you have biscuits and gravy. It's a scone.
That's not a scone. Biscuits and gravy is delicious.
It is, but
If
it's
any of you guys haven't had biscuits and gravy, look it up. It's fantastic.
they need to put it in the comments. Who says biscuit and scone, or do they say cookie and biscuit?
If I
Which
have
is it?
my coffee, I'm eating everything that's on the table though, so we're good. We're good there.
Me too. I don't care what it's called. And at
Um,
Christmas time, which is coming up, just quickly, sorry,
yeah,
Scott,
yeah, yeah.
all the food, all the nice things that people can't eat or are on, I'm going to cut down from today. It's going to be New Year.
Hmm.
They bring their food in and it's gone like a plague of locusts have
Sure.
attacked. You
Oh,
have
like
that.
in the break room? Yeah,
Yeah.
free food in the break room, and then night shift gets shafted all the time because when they bring in free food, or like they want to be nice, they bring in the food. When night shift gets there, they look, oh, okay. There's maybe a slice of pizza left that's been cold for like 7 hours. Yeah, it's
It's curled at the
poor
edges. Yeah.
night shift. We feel you. We were there.
Yes, we were there. However, we used to have our own little gathering of food on nights.
Oh, touche, a
Um,
little potluck or something.
yeah, a little
Yeah,
potluck. Yeah, for sure. Or we'd get a takeout and bring it in and
sure.
let it go cold on the table because you never get to eat
Yeah,
it.
yeah. You don't get to eat it. That's right. Oh, sorry. I digress. Go. I didn't mean to
No,
cut you
it's
off there,
fine.
but I wanted to be like, while strike while the anvil's hot, so to speak. Right.
Absolutely, yeah. So, yeah, we don't even get a cookie. When we worked in COVID, we were given a cupcake. They were sent down from the managers in some hospitals. I don't know about all because I
Oh,
wasn't in them
okay.
all. We were we were given a cupcake as a thank you
Hmm. Okay.
for
Cool.
sweating our gonads
Hmm.
off in PPE in intensive care and A&E. We were given a cupcake.
Well, was it good?
No,
Okay.
it was as artificial as the managers' personalities.
Boom. Roasted. Nice. Um.
Accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. All right. I think we have time for one more question. So, not question, but comparison. So, I think that you've kind of touched on it a little bit, the working conditions for the nurses, in
Yes.
how it's really bad. We say emergency department, you say A&E, um, but on the whole scale, um, because in the United States we try to break the acuity down by the type of unit that they're on. If they're on a med surge, I'm not sure what that is in the UK. That's kind of this.
Say medical or surgical,
Okay,
yes.
so that's kind of ideally, in a perfect world, it would be four patients, but it's not uncommon to have seven or eight med surge patients, and then going up. I've seen ICUs where it's supposed to be one to two, and they're going up to three patients now. I don't know how you're managing three vents. I don't know how they're doing it, but again, that's kind of tying back into the for-profit hospitals and stuff. Are you seeing the same things over in the United Kingdom?
Yes, yes. The only difference, and it wasn't really that much of a difference, was during COVID. I went back to intensive care. I'm qualified in intensive care as well as experienced.
Hmm.
So when it was discovered that I had an intensive care qualification, rather than being a registered nurse working to support an RN, I was given 3 intensive care patients, ventilated, and 1 was on dialysis, so I can do CVVHD or dialysis as well.
Yeah.
I had 2 helper nurses, so they did all the basic stuff and obs and whatever, but I did all the tech. A&E was 1 to 6 in hot red A&E, so that was all query COVID types, and then everybody else was green and went elsewhere. You would sometimes get another RN, but there would just be a healthcare assistant and yourself in that area. Resuscitation, resus, when I was in there, it was always 2 RNs with a very occasional healthcare assistant. And this was nights because I work predominantly nights. But yeah, the acuity ratio is appalling, because again, it's competing priorities. Who do you see first? You've got 2 patients with sepsis. One's 47, one's 93. These are the kind of things running through your mind. Some poor old gentleman who's got abdominal pain with constipation is screaming out in agony, and he's wet himself, and he's lying in wet sheets, wet bed. And then you've got a young person who's come in with acute appendicitis. Who do you go to first? And you've got to do bloods, venous gas, maybe an ABG if it's respiratory, cannulate, get the doc in, blah, blah, blah. It's too much. It's way too much. And checking your drugs. I mean, there's an RN to check your drugs. You've got to walk about, 2 miles before you'll find another RN. And that's not an exaggeration. That is daily fact for us. Now, on the wards at night, you will have 1 RGN, 1, and some healthcare associates. So they're called associate nurses. They're like an LPN in America, okay, similar to an LPN. But in the UK, the skills levels and training can differ somewhat to what goes on in America, but that's another story.
Sure.
But depending on how qualified and experienced that night RN is, he or she can be in charge of all that ward of, say, 24 patients, and they'll just have these helpers going in to do whatever. Yeah.
So in the United States, we have an insurance. What you do as a person, you have healthcare insurance. You pay a premium every month, which is usually pretty expensive. My wife and I pay somewhere around just under $900 a month. So you'll have that, and then you go. Let's say I need to go. I'm having abdominal pain. I go to the hospital, and you go there. They do an abdominal CT on me and a couple other things, some tests. They're not really sure what it is. I get discharged home. Maybe they give me a GI cocktail or some pain meds or something. The cost of just going to the emergency room, you have a copay there. So then let's be nice and say it's like $250. So you'll pay that on top. And then the insurance company will come back, and this is like privatization here. The insurance companies will say, you know what? You didn't need that CT. I don't know why they did that, so we're not going to cover that. So now the hospital wants their money, and your insurance is denying the claim. We're not going to pay that. So now you're on the hook for the CT scan they did at the emergency room, and I don't know how much they charge. Well, I just said $10,000 but like if you looked at what is being charged, it's astronomical. And for some reason with the insurance companies, they write to charge these insurance companies these crazy high numbers. Or a simple surgery will be $26,000 for a procedure that might take less than an hour, and then it comes back on you as a patient. Hopefully you have good insurance, but even good insurance doesn't cover everything. So it's a whole thing, and I understand you don't have that over in the UK.
Oh my God, Scott, let's back. First of all, I don't know what the GI cocktail is, so we'll have to come back to that. And let me just go back a little bit. I'm lost for words. How can an insurance company not pay out if you have been paying premiums like you would for your car
Hmm.
and it gets dented by some idiot in the supermarket or whatever, and you say, it needs a new door, or it's, I don't know, £500. The insurance company says, okay, it was an accident, you're covered fully comprehensive, so it means everything. Yeah, we'll pay that, but your premium does go up, but they'll pay. If a doctor or nurse considers you to need A, B, C, D, E, who the hell are these people to deny that and override your
Hmm.
clinical knowledge and decision? Who the hell are these people?
Exactly. That's why it's so profitable to be in the healthcare insurance, because when you deny claims, you don't have to pay that, you pocket that money, right? And you will have doctors scratching their heads, physicians, surgeons, whoever, trying to figure out what the hell they're talking about, because this is ordered to rule something out, and they don't have qualifications for the people that come back and say, oh, because it's not in, they'll find some excuse. So not a medical necessity. A lot of the times they don't have the background or the credentials, and obviously they don't understand what's going on in the moment. Fraud is a whole other thing, and I'm not saying people should be fraudulent, but the system as it stands right now is broken, and there's so many bad. I'm at a loss for words, honestly, because there's so many things that are
You are.
wrong. There's so many things that are wrong with it, and it starts a lot with going back to the business that we've turned healthcare into, which is sad to say, kind of the shape we're in the United States.
Wow. 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 So let me get this straight. If an insurance company says you didn't need that MRI scan,
You pay for it out of pocket.
okay, but who do they say that to? Does the doctor have to go over the notes and say to the insurer, actually, I'm a senior surgeon and I looked at
They
my
they
different
have they have the
notes?
ordering provider and everything with they already have all that information. They basically come back and say, well, the doctor is not good at their job, so I don't know why they ordered that. We're not going to cover it.
They say what? Seriously, Scott?
It's not a joke.
Oh no, I believe
It's a bad joke, I guess, if you want to think about it that.
it's a sick joke. It's sick. It's very sick. So hang on a minute. If the insurers are trying to justify that you didn't need that MRI scan and it's in the notes with the certified doctor, can the patient go to their doctor and say, they're not going to pay for this MRI scan, I can't afford £2,000 or whatever, and the doctors advocate on the patient's
Yeah,
behalf?
but now it's a
Time
whole now it's a whole issue that now on top of recovering from whatever the patient may need, now they have to go back to their doctor, say, hey, the doctor can help appeal it. Depending on the paperwork, sometimes it goes directly to the doctor, but the patient will have to go through their insurance company and try to appeal these um, nonsense denials is what they are, and there's a reason that they make $65 million a year, or it's because of the business side of things. But it's sad. It's sad for the patients. It's sad. It's sad for the United States.
and our country wants to bring this system in.
Yeah,
It
it's
sounds mad. It sounds madness. And not only that, it's more bureaucracy.
mhm.
Why should a doctor be spending time defending their clinical decision? Why train them? Why do we have people training when you can just get someone without the qualifications going, yeah, not needed, yeah, not needed?
Yeah. So that's kind of where we are. But I did want to end the video on a good note. To end on a good note, what would you say your favorite part about nursing is?
Leaving the end of the day,
Yeah.
the week off. My favourite part about nursing,
Yeah.
I love the patients, but the politics sucks.
Yeah, I would say that could probably be both of our answers. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Share it. Feel free to get the word out. And you can follow Deb at the Old School RN Registered Nurse YouTube channel. And I am Home Health Hustle Nurse on both YouTube and Instagram. Do you have any other platforms, or is it mainly YouTube and Instagram?
Mainly YouTube and then your usual social media, but I'm not old school RN on them, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay, like I said, just YouTube. All
Yeah.
right, take care, guys.
Let go.
Oh, I,
Collective what?
you're live.
Collective.